I swiped my badge like I always did. The scanner blinked red. No beep. No green light. I stared at it for a second, confused, then swiped again. Slower this time. Still nothing. I rubbed the magnetic strip against my jacket like that might somehow reset reality. Nothing. Try again, the security guard said. I didn't know his name. He was new, young, had that overly formal politeness they train you on your first week. I've worked here 18 years, I mumbled almost to myself. This doesn't make sense. He didn't know what to say. He just pressed a button on his headset and said something low, probably to building ops. Then he looked at me again, softer this time. Can you please step aside, sir? Sir? That's when it hit me. I wasn't an employee anymore. I didn't even get a meeting. No email. No warning. Just erased. There's something about a quiet ending that hurts more than a loud one. No yelling. No scandal. Just silence. Like you never existed. I took a slow breath. My hand was still on the ID card, like I could make it all go back to normal by holding on long enough. Around me, people walked in like it was any other Tuesday. I saw a few familiar faces. Some glanced at me. Some avoided my eyes. That told me everything. They knew. 18 years. I built half the systems in that building. Helped onboard 3 CEOs. Slept under my desk during a product failure in 2011. I gave them more than I gave my own body. I missed birthdays, anniversaries, life, and I didn't even get a goodbye, but I didn't shout. I didn't make a scene. I turned, walked slowly toward the parking lot. The cool morning air felt heavier than usual. I unlocked my car, sat inside, and pulled out my phone. Logged into my private cloud server, the one they didn't know existed. And right there, under the folder named Company Logs, Private, was a subfolder I hadn't touched in years, Phase 1, Backup Archive. I clicked it open. I had copies of systems logs, deleted email chains, meeting transcripts, hidden budget files. I had receipts. And they had no idea. I wasn't always invisible. When I joined the company, I was the kid with the quiet voice and the messy desk. I didn't network, didn't go to happy hours. But I learned fast. And I solved problems faster. By year 3, they started calling me Reliable Ray. At first, it felt like a compliment. Later, I realized it just meant I was easy to overlook. I wasn't flashy like the product managers or loud like the sales guys. I didn't speak in buzzwords or walk around pretending to be a genius. I just did my job. Really well. I fixed what broke. Wrote clean code. Trained junior devs. Stayed late. Showed up early. I even kept a list of undocumented shortcuts no one else knew existed. You could have dropped me in the middle of any outage or data crisis, and I'd find the leak. Didn't ask for recognition. I didn't want it. I wanted the work to be solid. That was enough for me. I remember when Derek joined. Years later, as an intern. He used to bring me coffee and ask questions about system design. He listened back then. But things change when titles change. Now he's the CTO. And I'm standing outside, badge locked, no job. The funny thing is, I still had access to my private logs. They'd forgotten about those when they phased out our old servers, or maybe they thought I'd deleted them. Maybe they assumed I'd just move on. But I didn't. Because being reliable also meant I kept records of everything. I didn't collect secrets to blackmail anyone. It was just habit. I liked understanding how things really worked. Not just the systems, but the people. You do a job for long enough and you start noticing patterns. Who speaks in half-truths? Who copies ideas? Who quietly erases others' names from project files? I wasn't naive, but I was loyal. Now I realized, maybe being quiet made it easier for them to erase me. They thought I'd walk away without a sound. But they forgot the first thing I ever told that intern, now their CTO. The smartest people aren't loud. They just know when to speak. And I was ready to speak, just not in the way they expected. Looking back, the signs were there. I just didn't want to believe them. It started about a week before the scanner turned red. I was clearing out some old system queues, making room before the quarterly update. Routine stuff. Nothing special. And then something strange happened. An internal email thread popped into my inbox. By accident, I assumed. It was marked confidential, with a subject line that didn't make sense. Phase transition. Stage 3 approvals. I didn't recognize the sender, but the recipients included our CFO, Marla, and someone in HR I'd never worked with directly. Clicked it open. There were only 3 messages. Dry language, legal-sounding terms, but it was enough. Phrases like strategic redundancy and seniority adjustments. And then a line that froze me cold. Confirm which employees will be easiest to transition without compliance delays. A second later, the entire thread vanished from my inbox. I checked the logs and it had been remotely retracted, but I'd already screenshotted it. Reflex, I didn't panic. Not yet. I told myself it was a budgeting thing, or maybe something meant for another department, but a part of me didn't buy it. So I started backing up again. Quietly. Every night I saved new copies of system logs, internal docs, user access trails. I didn't draw attention. I just did what I always did. Protect what needed protecting. Except this time, I was protecting myself. I even started using one of my old monitoring tools, a script I'd built years ago to catch silent permission changes. It flagged 5 in 3 days, all tied to senior staff, all people over 40, most of them with long tenures like mine. Still, I didn't jump to conclusions. I wanted to believe this was just sloppy management, miscommunication, HR, jargon, but deep down, I knew better. I didn't know what it meant then, but I would soon enough. They didn't even have the decency to look me in the eye. I got a calendar invite that morning, plain subject line. HR, quick check-in. No details, just 10 minutes. Room 6B. I figured it was about benefits updates or something minor. I even brought my coffee in with me. When I walked into the room, Amanda was already there. I recognized her from the last onboarding session. Young, early 20s maybe. Always looked slightly overwhelmed, like she was still catching up. She didn't smile when I entered. "Hi, Raymond," she said softly. "Please, have a seat." There was a manila envelope on the table between us. Sealed. I didn't sit. "What's this about?" I asked. Amanda looked down, then pushed the envelope across the table. "I was told to give this to you directly, from the executive board." I didn't move for a second. I just stared at the envelope like it might explode. Then I opened it. Inside was a single printed letter, no logo, no signature. "Your position has been eliminated, effective immediately. Please collect your belongings. Your final paycheck and severance details will follow via email. No explanation, no conversation, no mention of 18 years. Looked up at Amanda. "That's it?" She shifted in her chair. "That's all they asked me to deliver?" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't demand anything. I just asked, "Did you know this was coming?" She hesitated. That pause said everything. "I don't make the decisions," she said, almost whispering. "I'm sorry." There was a moment of silence. Just the faint hum of the overhead lights. "I trained half the people still working in that department," I said. "I designed the systems they still use. And this is how it ends?" Amanda opened her mouth, then closed it again. She wouldn't look me in the eye. That was the part that stung. Not the firing, the shame in her face, like she knew more than she could say. I folded the letter, tucked it in my pocket, and walked out without another word. That was the moment I realized. This wasn't just business. This was deliberate. And I wasn't going to disappear quietly. Didn't cry. I didn't go home and scream or punch a wall or drown in whiskey. I just drove. Found a small cafe with free Wi-Fi and a corner table. Ordered black coffee, sat down, pulled out my laptop, and opened a window into the one place they hadn't touched. My personal server. The interface looked old, clunky even, but it worked. I hadn't needed to use it in years, but I always kept it alive. Not for revenge, but for insurance. Quiet, disciplined habit. They thought they had shut me out. But they had no idea how many things I still had access to. Things they didn't even remember existed. Logs, emails, financial records, source code, repositories, departmental approval chains, all archived in weekly snapshots. I didn't look for anything specific at first. I just explored, calmly, patiently, like sweeping through the ashes of a burned house waiting to find the first thing that didn't belong. And then I did. A folder I didn't name, tucked away under an admin directory from 3 years ago. Phase. Transition. Confidential. I stared at the title for a long moment. My hand didn't move. My coffee sat untouched. Then I clicked. Inside were internal memos between senior leadership, drafts of press releases that had never been used, charts showing projected layoffs and restructuring, all timed perfectly with funding announcements, and quarterly bonuses. They weren't downsizing. They were replacing, strategically removing older, higher salaried employees and filling the gaps with cheaper, less experienced staff, many of them with personal ties to the new CTO. There were documents showing Derek's hand in all of it, schedules he approved, sign-offs he buried, even handwritten notes scanned and uploaded from his tablet. I wasn't paranoid. I was targeted, and I wasn't alone. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen. They thought they'd deleted me, but they had no idea what I'd kept, and I hadn't even started yet. I treated the folder like a crime scene. Every file, every timestamp, every little trail of metadata. I followed it like a forensic path. I wasn't just trying to find out why they fired me. I wanted to understand how deep this went. It started with me, sure. But the pattern was bigger. I built a spreadsheet color-coded. Names, dates, severance packages, replacement hires. 47 terminations over the past 18 months. Most were employees with 10 years or more. Nearly all were over 40. And their replacements? Fresh out of college. Inexperienced. Cheap and strangely connected. Through LinkedIn, internal referrals, even social media photos at company events. Before they were hired, I traced most of them back to one person, Derek, the new CTO. He wasn't the intern who used to shadow me anymore. He was a star now, polished, confident, loved by upper management. The kind of guy who smiled in boardrooms and talked in buzzwords. But behind the scenes, he was pulling strings. He'd created a system that looked like normal turnover from the outside. But inside, it was a carefully designed cleanse. People like me were labeled non-scalable. That word showed up in one of the files next to my name. Non-scalable. Like I was a piece of tech that couldn't be upgraded. They didn't just fire me. They profiled me, evaluated my compliance, my cost, my value to their new narrative. And then, they discarded me. But what they didn't count on was that I understood the system better than they did. I built parts of it, after all. I knew where it hid things, where emails went when they were deleted, where version histories lived. After edits, I didn't need to hack anything. I just needed to look, really look, at what I'd already seen 1,000 times. And at the bottom of the deepest folder was the document that finally pushed me over the edge, a slide deck for internal board use, titled Phase Transition. Timeline, slide 12 had my name along with a single tag, non-compliant. Recommend removal Q2. They'd planned it, quietly, casually. And now I was planning something too. I could have gone public. I could have posted everything, screenshots, spreadsheets, the entire phase transition deck, and let the internet tear them apart. But I didn't. Loud revenge fades. Strategic silence lingers. So I made one decision. I'd send the files to exactly one person. Her name was Nora. She used to be an intern back when I managed the documentation team. Curious, sharp, always asking questions no one else thought to ask. I taught her how to trace internal logs, how to read between the lines of dry legal memos. She ended up leaving tech and becoming an investigative journalist. The real kind. We hadn't talked in years, but I still had her number. I texted, "Need a quiet set of eyes. Corporate ethics story. No names unless necessary. You in?" She replied within 5 minutes. "Send it." I encrypted the files, all of them. Wrapped in a password she would know. A reference to a line of code we'd joked about a decade ago. Inside were folders organized by year, project, and department. Annotated, cross-referenced. No fluff. Just facts. I included one note at the top. They erased 47 people to pad executive bonuses and streamline optics for investors. Follow the hiring trails. Start with Derek. Do not mention me. I hit send and waited. I didn't hear anything for 2 days. Then I woke up to a group message forwarded from Nora. Screenshots from a national business news site. 3 executives. Resign amid ethics probe at company name. No statements, no denials. Just one line from the board. Due to recent internal findings, we are making leadership changes to align with our values. I smiled. Not out of satisfaction, but relief. I didn't want to ruin lives. I just wanted truth to echo somewhere, louder than a glass office with a locked door. The world still didn't know my name. But by morning, 3 executives were no longer listed on the company's site. The press release was clean, too clean. Words like realignment, culture, review, and integrity were thrown around. Corporate poetry to mask panic, but I recognized the signs. They were scrambling. Within hours of the article going live, I started noticing changes, minor at first. The company updated its leadership page. Derek's profile disappeared. Marla, the CFO, was retiring early. A generic internal memo followed, full of phrases like employee trust and ongoing investigation. Behind the scenes, they were in damage control mode. Board meetings, legal consultations, carefully worded emails. But none of that mattered as much as what happened the next day. Amanda texted me. Just one line. "What did you do?" I didn't respond. Not because I didn't want to, but because I wasn't ready to explain. Not yet. Maybe not ever. She deserved better than being the messenger caught in the middle. But she also stood by and watched. And me? I just watched too, this time from a safe distance. Stock prices didn't crash, but they dipped. Enough to make shareholders nervous. Enough to trigger questions that couldn't be answered in a single press conference. Public trust is a fragile thing. They tried to control the story, but Nora had done her job well. She didn't mention me, but she included everything else. The data, the patterns, the names of staff replaced for budget optics. And for the first time, people were asking questions they couldn't ignore. That's when I got the email. From a generic company address. "We'd like to invite you to consult with us during this transitional phase. Your expertise and historical insight are valued. Please let us know your availability." I stared at the screen for a long time. They wanted me back. Not as an employee, but as a fixer. I was the same guy they erased a week ago. Now they wanted me to help them clean up the mess they created, and they still had no idea what I hadn't sent yet. I didn't take their money. They offered 6 months of consulting. A generous rate. Remote work, full access. The usual flattery buried in fake humility. They needed me to stabilize things, not technically but publicly. Bringing back a long-time systems architect would send the right message. "See? We respect our people. We're listening." But I wasn't interested in being a prop, so I declined the offer. Politely, professionally. Then I sent them something else instead. A document. One I'd written over the past 3 days. It wasn't angry. It wasn't a threat. Just a clear, dated timeline of events backed with logs, names, and approvals. The entire sequence from the start of the phase transition plan to the day they locked me out. I sent it to one address. Only the chair of the board, Linda. I remembered her from a few town halls. Quiet, firm, always 2 steps ahead. Reputation mattered to her more than anything else. In the body of the email I wrote, I'm not looking for revenge, but I am holding a mirror. You have one chance to clean this internally, with full transparency. If you don't, I'll let the public do it. Your call. No drama, no follow-up, just facts. 2 days later, I got a response. Short, direct. We understand. Thank you, Linda, board chair, that was it. But then the real cleanup started. Derek's departure was reclassified as a termination due to breach of internal policy. 2 other VPs were reassigned pending third-party review. An external ethics firm was brought in, publicly, openly, and quietly. I heard, through Nora, that the company settled with 12 former employees. Severance renegotiated, NDAs waived, apologies issued, though not all made it to the press. They did exactly what I hoped they would, not because they had integrity, but because they feared exposure. I didn't want to destroy the company, I just wanted them to remember that loyalty isn't something you erase with a locked door and a sealed envelope. It's something you lose forever. And sometimes, you don't even hear it leave. I don't work in tech anymore. Not in the way I used. To these days, I consult on my terms. Small teams, honest projects, no titles, no corner offices, just code, clean systems, and clarity. I keep things simple now. I don't attach my name to companies. I don't chase promotions. I don't mistake loyalty for safety, but I kept something from the old days. A folder, encrypted, offline, air-gapped from every cloud. Inside it is everything they tried to hide. Not just the files they deleted, but the things they didn't think anyone noticed. Meetings they thought weren't recorded. Slack messages they assumed disappeared. Contracts signed in backrooms and bonuses paid in silence. Proof. I don't need it anymore. But knowing I have it, that matters. It reminds me of who I became. I used to be the guy who fixed things. Quiet, dependable, invisible. Now, I still fix things, but I don't wait for permission anymore. Sometimes revenge looks like fire and fury, but sometimes it looks like patience, a clean record, a quiet file, and a man they thought they could erase, sitting calmly in the dark. With all the lights turned off, I was erased quietly, but I came back even quieter. And that was louder than anything they expected.